The Season 2 update has just dropped inside Marvel Rivals, and we've had a full week of early access to play the new hero. We've also played the new team-ups, and we've got to see what the new changes are to the existing heroes in the game. And this video, we're going to go through a tier list showing you which are the best heroes to use for Season 2. So let's start off with the Vanguards first, and this is where we got the new hero, so I do want to start with this category of heroes first of all. Now, we're going to start with the Hulk, and that is because he got quite a few changes with this update. He essentially got a faster jump speed, which is basically to charge jumps a lot faster, and also his gamma shield you can use more frequently now, especially with the fact that they cut down the cooldown timer on that. So the Hulk, in my opinion, is either S tier or he's high A tier, one of the two. He can easily go in both, if I'm being honest with you. Right now, I'm going to put him high A tier. I think at the start of the season, we need to see a bit more of him, obviously, before we make a massive assumption there on how good he can be. But I do think he's going to be really good for Season 2. Captain America, again, I would like to put into A tier. The reason for that is in the scenarios he's good in, he's very good in, and that is when it comes to bullying the backline, helping your team dive, and he's one of the best at it. Now, he did get a slight nerf to his shield, which is kind of fine, to be honest, because you don't need to always have your shield out all the time anyway, and he got a buff to his overall HP, so he's going to survive a little bit longer even if you're not using the shield. So it's kind of like a buff and a nerf, but I still think he's A tier. Doctor Strange is next, and I definitely think Doctor Strange is A tier. And what I do want to say about Doctor Strange is that they did nerf him in this update, and I feel like he's just getting knocked lower and lower and lower every time they decide to nerf him. So they shouldn't really nerf him any more than this, because I did have early access for a full week, and people were kind of stopped selecting Doctor Strange now. And not only that, if they nerf him too much, he's not going to be viable at all. So I think he's actually in a decent spot right now. So if they don't nerf him anymore, I think he'll be in a really good place for the overall balance of the game. I still think he's A tier though, but that is providing that they don't change him any further. Next up, we have Thor. Now, when it comes to Thor, he's very particular, but those particular scenarios depends if you're frontline tanking a lot. And to be honest, there's a couple of better options now, especially in this type of category of heroes. And even though he did get a buff in the Season 1.5 update, I believe, to his Awakening rune, I just think he's not quite as good as some of the options that we do have here. Then we have Venom, and I'm going to put Venom in S tier for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it's going to be down to that team up with Spider-Man, which is still pretty strong. Then he's going to probably be the best dive tank in the entire game. So if you do want to play a dive tank, then Venom is the best choice. He's probably the easier to use choice as well compared to the Hulk. So overall, it just makes more sense to put Venom in S tier, and that is where he belongs. Next up, we've got Groot, who was S tier on the end part of Season 1.5, and I still think he's going to be S tier because he never got any adjustments with this update, surprisingly, to be honest. And he does have an extremely good kit, and the way that the meta is going for Vanguards right now is very frontline tanking, and Groot is one of the best at that if you know how to use him correctly. His walls are incredibly strong, his ultimate's one of the best in the game, and he's not really dropped since the later half of Season 1.5. Then we have Penny Parker, who I think is actually like high A tier. She got a buff with the most recent update to her damage output, essentially, and I think that's making her an extremely solid pick now. Now, she could even be S tier, to be honest, and that is because she's probably one of the best counters to dive in the entire game, but the meta is not dive at the moment anyway, so we don't need to worry too much about that. Her damage output is just extremely good now, so I do think Penny is definitely an A tier tank in this game, and she's slightly different to all the other tanks in the game as well, which I do like, and she does deserve to be up here. Then we've got some of the S tier tanks again with the Thing. The Thing never really got any adjustments besides a small reduction to his shield ability, which is a decent ability in and of itself, and obviously it probably was his most powerful piece of kit for keeping him alive. But you can still play around that. They never nerfed it to the ground or anything like that, so you can still play around that. He's still outputting really good damage. His running attack is still one of the best displacement tools in the entire game, and I just think the thing will still be absolutely S tier, especially with frontline tanking being one of the main kind of metas for season 2, or at least at the start of season 2 anyway. Next up, we've got my main hero at the moment, and that is Magneto. Magneto is absolutely S tier in season 2. His new team up is incredibly strong, but we'll get on into that in just a moment. But he's the best frontline tank in the game. He never got any adjustments with the new seasonal update, and he's always been an S tier tank, and that's not really changed. He's the best frontline shield tank in the game, especially at blocking tons of incoming damage. He's really, really solid, and his survivability is through the roof still. So definitely S tier when it comes to the tanks in this game. Then we have EMMA FROST, who enables his team up, which makes them both incredibly strong. EMMA FROST is probably the best Vanguard in the game right now, if I'm being honest with you. And the reason for that is because she can do everything. If you want to watch a full guide on EMMA FROST and how to use her, or a guide on the team up, I'll leave a link to those videos at the end of this one. But essentially, she can frontline tank with her shield. She can block pretty much every ultimate or any other ability with her diamond form, her shield, and pretty much her ultimate ability as well. So she's got so many counters to so many other heroes. And not to mention, she just outputs insane amounts of damage when she's in that diamond form. So I think EMMA FROST is absolutely S tier, if not the best tank in the game right now. So you want to be using this hero if you can. Next up, we have Strategists. And when it comes to Strategists, we're starting off with Jeff, and I definitely think Jeff is B tier. I think he can be used well in a triple support composition if you are trying to use him. Even if you don't, he's still pretty decent at outputting a good amount of healing. He's not one of the main healers in the game, obviously, but he does provide a lot of damage output, and I think he's pretty solid for that reason alone. I don't think Jeff's bad at all. I think people give him a lot more crap than he deserves. And Jeff is definitely B tier. He's nowhere near as good as some of the other heroes or other strategists in the game, but he's not a bad choice if you do want to use him. Next up, we've got Adam Warlock, and in my opinion, Adam Warlock is definitely A tier, and it doesn't really matter what rank you play, Adam Warlock will be A tier, and the main reason for it is because of his team up. His team up is just so good not to use, and it stops staggering completely. And if you want to see a video on how to use his team up, we do have that on the channel as well. And it's one of the best team ups in the entire game, and that's what's keeping him at that A tier. Obviously, he's not a main healer, but he does output good damage, and he can take out flying heroes, and he is just pretty solid as acting as a DPS in general. So he's not too bad, and Soul Bond did get a nerf, so there's no way we could put him in S tier, because you're not going to get Soul Bond as often. I didn't think it needed a nerf, if I'm being honest with you, but regardless, Adam Warlock in that team up is definitely an A tier. Then we have Loki. Now, Loki is absolutely S tier for season 2. He's going to be amazing. He's probably one of the best healers in the game going into season 2, and he's always kind of been anyway. It's just that we've always had stronger healing output from some other heroes, and now that a lot of these other heroes are dropping down, he's definitely going to be the S tier pick. Not to mention he can steal ultimates, and mainly talking about the stronger ultimates in the game, such as EMMA FROST ultimate, which counters other ultimates. So you can also do that as well. And if you know how to use him well, which obviously any of the high level players do, or if you've played a full season of Marvel Rivals now, you should know how to play Loki if you're maining him. So like I said, getting the value out of Loki is definitely incredibly strong, and he's an amazingly good counter to any dive. Next up, we have Luna Snow. When it comes to Luna Snow, she's absolutely S tier. She kind of has always been, and I think she's the best strategist in the game right now. If you want to learn one, this is the one you want to learn, because her ultimate is incredibly strong, especially in season 2. It lasts a full 10 seconds where you're getting healing, and you can do the damage buff as well for your team. Not to mention that she is incredibly strong at outputting heals just in general. And then she also has the ability to heal like dive heroes and flying heroes on your team as well pretty easily with her Snowflake. She's just basically the best healer in the game at the moment, and she definitely deserves to be in S tier. And she never really got any changes with the new update anyway, so that is why you want to pick Luna Snow. Then we have Mantis, and I do think Mantis is creeping up again. going to be a bit more powerful. I do think she sits in A tier at the moment, mainly because of the team up as well. If you do use it with Adam Warlock, but her ultimate is definitely back to being one of the stronger ultimates in the game, and she did get a slight buff with the seasonal update as well, which definitely is going to make her a little bit better. And I think that just overall makes her A tier. I don't think she's quite as strong as what we have in S tier at the moment. And I don't have tons of playtime on Mantis, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I do think she's A tier from what I have seen. Then we have Rocket, man, and finally Rocket's getting the recognition he deserves because he's actually solid. So Rocket is absolutely S tier right now. If you do not know, he outputs way more healing than he did before. It's way faster healing, it's more healing, and his ultimate is now being buffed as well to be actually one of the better ultimates in the whole entire game at the moment, where he offers a damage buff and overshields to his teammates. So Rocket is incredibly strong right now. And what is also good about that is that he outputs a solid amount of damage if you know how to use him well. The only issue is they did nerf his overall movement, so when it comes to trying to stay alive against dive characters and things like that, you need to get a bit better with his wall run mechanics, and you can't use his jetpacks as much. But as a support character now, he's basically one of the best in the game, so I think Rocket is incredibly strong, and he has his BRB as well. So next we've got Cloak and Dagger, and Cloak and Dagger is definitely A tier in Season 2. Easy healing output, and it'll always be a high-picked strategist, especially on controller, just because it's no aim required essentially with this hero, and that's what's really good with her. But I'm glad they dropped her down a level, just because if there is not much skill required to use the hero, then they shouldn't really have quite as strong of an output compared to the ones that are at the top of this list. Obviously, maybe minus Rocket there. But like I said, I think Cloak and Dagger is absolutely A tier. You could definitely use her right now, and her ultimate did get a slight buff when it comes to the Season 2 update. That's not really going to change too much, but definitely a S tier hero. Finally, on the Strategist, we have Invisible Woman, and she is absolutely S tier, and the reason for that is just mainly because of the healing output. She doesn't really do too much else really well besides CC control, which is incredibly strong right now. But again, having counters to that now with the Thing and EMMA Frost in Diamond form, she's probably not going to be as strong as she was before when it comes to the CC control. However, what she still is incredibly good at is the fact that her ultimate's incredibly strong, and also she outputs some of the most amount of healing in the entire game when it comes to the primary healing. So that is one thing you do need to keep in mind. She's nowhere near as strong as Luna Snow because she only has a range of 40 meters as well, so just keep that in mind. Next up, we've got the Dualists, and the Dualists got quite a lot of changes and quite a lot of new team ups here as well. So we'll get into these as we go through them, but we're starting off with Black Panther, and Black Panther right now, he's C tier, man. I thought he was going to get a buff with the Season 2 update, to be perfectly honest, but his hit reg issues are still kind of there in my opinion, and also he's incredibly hard to use. But not to mention, man, I feel like he just doesn't really output enough damage as he probably should. So I think Black Panther overall needs a buff. It's not to say you cannot do well with him. I just think for the average player, they're going to struggle to find value with Black Panther, where there's other heroes that just do his job much easier. So that is why I'm putting him in C tier right now. Hopefully he gets a buff relatively soon. Then we have Black Widow. Black Widow, in my opinion, is B tier. Definitely a solid choice going into Season 2. Not quite as powerful as what we have above her, however, she's definitely good at what she does, which is sniping heroes at range. And what's really good right now, and it's not the fact that Black Widow herself is very strong, but her team up's pretty decent with Hawkeye, and also a lot of the support ultimates offer damage buffs now. So if you do have pretty strong support ultimates like Luna Snow or Rocket or Mantis with the damage buff, then you're going to be able to output way more damage with Black Widow, and I think that's where she gets better in the game, whereas if you're using her by herself, she's not that strong. Then we have Hawkeye, who I think is absolutely A tier right now. He got tons of buffs, to be honest, I have no idea why, but he's now incredibly strong. He can fire his bow a lot quicker. He's probably the better of all this kind of sniping style characters. I don't think he's incredibly strong, that's why I put him in A tier, but for what he does, like I said, sniping at range and dealing a decent amount of damage to enemies. Next up we have Hela, and Hela's incredibly strong right now, and I would say she's S tier still. Even though she got a slight nerf to her teleport, that didn't really change too much. because if you have a good team around you, you'll still stay alive relatively easily. And they gave her a slight damage buff, which is absolutely insane because she's probably the highest damage output hero in the entire game, to be honest. And that is the reason why she's used at every single level. So like I said, Hela incredibly strong right now. Even by herself, she's got the team up with Loki and Thor, which is actually a pretty decent team up as well. So if you are kind of using a Loki on your team, which again, he's an S tier strategist, then it kind of makes sense to use Hela as well. And when we come, that brings us on to Iron Fist. Now, when it comes to Iron Fist, I think he's absolutely A tier right now. And that was even before the Season 2 update. I think he was pretty strong. They buffed him slightly more now with the Season 2 update. And I think he's the best kind of dive hero in the entire game at the minute. And the reason for that is because he can survive a lot longer than the rest of the guys because of his self-sustain, his healing capabilities, his overshields, and overall just the fact that he moves super quick. I think that's what makes him incredibly good, and not to mention, doesn't require a lot of mechanical skill, just a lot of skill of understanding the game. So if you know how to rotate your abilities correctly with Iron Fist, then he's absolutely A tier. He's probably the best dive hero in the entire game by himself. So if you're solo diving, I think Iron Fist is definitely the best in the game, and I think he deserves to be an A tier. It's just that dive's not the main meta at the moment. Then we've got Iron Man, and I think Iron Man's absolutely S tier right now. He gets a buff after a buff after a buff, and now he's just buffed to the max where he's basically just incredibly good. Like, he does so much damage from range. He's got the overdrive, now he's got the over shields in overdrive mode. He's got the gamma overdrive as well, which is not that strong, but he's got so many things going for him. And I just think he's incredibly strong right now. I think he's got a lot of good survivability now with the overshields. He just outputs a good amount of damage. If you know how to use him correctly, man, Iron Man can absolutely destroy in games. And I don't really know why they gave him that buff, because I don't think he needed it. Next up, we've got Magic, and Magic is incredibly strong when it comes to diving. It's just that, like I said before, diving is not the meta. She does deserve to be an A tier. She never got any adjustments with the Season 2 update, so there's not too much to talk about there, but she has pretty decent survivability similar to Iron Fist at staying alive in that backline with her portals or overshields, and just overall outputting a solid amount of damage. And I think she is still going to be really good in Season 2. Then we have Moon Knight, who actually got a buff with the Season 2 update, where if he uses his Moonblade, he gains overshields, and that's going to work when he does his kind of combo with his Unk. However, I still think he's going to be in B tier. I don't think that was a good enough change to make him any better. His zipline also works a little bit quicker as well, which is handy, but again, I don't think that's going to make him any stronger than he already is. Then we have Namor, and Namor belongs in S tier. He got his new squid, the Gamma Squid, and that is incredibly broken, man. It's so good. It's better than the old thing that he had. The Free Squid has nothing on this Gamma Squid. Namor is incredibly strong, especially at countering dive. He's probably the single best hero at doing that. But not even to mention, I just think he outputs so much damage, and if you know how to use him well, which is kind of not too hard to master, he's one of the easiest output damage heroes in the entire game, and I think he's incredibly good right now. Next up, we've got Psylocke, and Psylocke is again S tier, man, especially with the new team up with EMMA FROST. She's incredibly strong. She was always strong throughout the whole of Season 1, and I just still think that with this new team up, she's going to be even better. I think she benefits even more than Magneto does from that EMMA FROST team up where you could duplicate yourself. And because she's a flanker and she kind of can escape and disappear, that extra distraction team up just makes it incredibly strong for her, and I think she's absolutely S tier right now. Next up, we've got Scarlet Witch, and I think Scarlet Witch is absolutely A tier. Her new team up is really good, by the way. Like, I think is super strong at outputting tons of damage if you pair it with your primary attack, and that team up is with Doctor Strange. And right now, she is one of the easiest damage output heroes. She's good at kind of anti-diving as well, and she bursts a lot of damage down if you're in a decent enough range. Now, obviously doesn't have like super far range attacks, but if you know how to combo her abilities together, then she is really strong. I think she's absolutely A tier. She could even go up to S tier later on in the season, in my opinion, just because of how strong she is right now. So we'll need to wait and see that one out. Next up, we have Spider-Man, and I think Spider-Man is absolutely A tier. I think he's really strong. The team up helps him out a lot if you get the Venom team up, of course. But even other than that, I think he is one of the better dive heroes. He's super hard to hit, and if you know how to use him correctly, he's definitely A tier. Now, you never really got any changes with this new update, and I don't think he really needed any anyways, so Spider-Man is definitely a solid choice. Then we have Squirrel Girl, who is definitely A tier as well. I think Squirrel Girl is one of the easiest heroes to use in the game. She never got any adjustments with this update, of course, but her ultimate is super easy to understand and use. Her abilities are super easy to use, and she's got a lot of stun abilities if you have the team up with Spider-Man as well, which is incredibly strong. Next up, we have Star-Lord. Star-Lord is definitely A tier in my opinion. He's definitely dropped down a rank because of EMMA FROST ultimate and the fact that it counters Star-Lord super hard. And that is one thing I do want to mention, obviously, that there's a few more counters to Star-Lord now, so just keep that in mind when you are playing this hero. I do still think he can output tons of damage. I still think he's an incredibly strong choice. I just don't think he's S tier, just like he was previously. Then we have Storm, and I think Storm, when it comes to flying heroes, she is S tier as well. I don't think she's quite as strong as Iron Man, so you could have an argument to put her in A tier, but I still think she's pretty good, to be honest. I think Iron Man's the best flying option at the moment, and Storm is like the second best, but she's still really good at outputting tons of damage. You got the damage buff as well, which definitely helps out all the other heroes, like someone like Black Widow, for example. So you do offer extra support to your team. Next up, we have Punisher, and I think Punisher is absolutely S tier. And the reason for that is because he's going to be one of the strongest counters to all of these tanks that we have in S tier. So that goes for Venom, Groot, The Thing, Magneto, and also EMMA FROST. Maybe Magneto not so much because he protected against projectiles. But when EMMA FROST is in diamond form, Punisher's the only guy that can just rip through that essentially with his shooting abilities. The Thing, he rips through him. Groot's walls rips through that. That's the only thing that can basically counter all this stuff, is a guy with bullets. A bit crazy, but that is how the game goes. And his team up with Rocket, and the fact that Rocket's probably going to get used a ton more, is still pretty solid at giving him unlimited ammo. So like I said, I just think that's incredibly strong, and the Punisher is definitely going to be S tier. Now, the next hero got removed from the Overload team up, but he's still in S tier somehow. I don't know why he's still here, but anyway, Winter Soldier is S tier. And the new team up is pretty good with Captain America. Essentially gives him more movement capabilities and more kind of damage dealing abilities as well, because he doesn't actually need to team it up exactly with Captain America. You can kind of use the abilities on other teammates, which make it actually pretty solid, like I said, for a movement tool more than anything else. And then he's still basically exactly the same as he was before. He can still use his hook, he can still use his uppercut, he can still do all that stuff. It did get slightly nerfed in terms of how often you can use his hook, but regardless, if you're a good Winter Soldier player, you can play around that very easily. He outputs a good amount of damage. And next up, we've got Wolverine, and Wolverine is absolutely S tier. He's the best counter to any tank in this entire game, and the fact that the meta is very tank heavy at the moment, especially some people even running triple tank at some points or the end of season 1.5, which is absolutely insane. Wolverine is the best hero at dealing with that by far, and he never really got any changes, to be honest, besides to like how his damage kind of works. But I don't think that's really going to change his abilities, and I played almost a full day with him when I had the early access, and not much has changed with Wolverine, to be fair, whatsoever, so I still think he's incredibly strong. Next up, we've got Mr. Fantastic, and Mr. Fantastic, in my opinion, is very low A tier. He could also be in B tier right now. Now, the good thing about Mr. Fantastic and why I place him in A tier at the moment is because he could brawl through a lot of the tanks, and that's because he has that brawling capabilities with his own kind of bubble form. He did get a slight buff as well to his ultimate, and that is also pretty solid too. But I think Mr. Fantastic will be a bit more pivotal inside season 2 compared to what he was. Lastly, we got Human Torch, and I think he's C tier. I don't think any hero in this game is trash, but when it comes to Human Torch, you got a buff to his dive, so he gains overshield when he dives down. And he got a buff to his damage output as well, which is definitely pretty decent, but I just don't think he's nearly as good as the other flying heroes or any of the other heroes that are above him on this list for that matter. There's definitely better options for what you want to achieve with the Human Torch. I've had over a week of early access playing this game, so that is how I believe the meta will stack up for the start of season 2. This will probably change as more people get their hands on the game, and also when we get more adjustments to the game. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.